cop trainee ordered to cut a dead homeless man's body with a knife. Put it up, full mass. Just deprived. Several officers with the Salt Lake City Police Department were disciplined for directing or for not objecting to a trainee officer using a utility knife to cut the skin of a dead homeless man last year. Bodycam footage released with a statement by the police department last Friday shows the officers approach a tent where sun-blistered Jason Lloyd, 47, was found dead. Only 47. This was August 2024. And then instruct the rookie cop, Dakota Smigel, that he needed to move the body. Okay? Quote, "I feel like you're pranking me," Smigel said. "Why are you smirking like that?" Next, Smigel, who was only on his 11th shift, was handed the knife by a contractor from the medical examiner's office and told to, quote, "pop multiple blisters on Mr. Lloyd's right arm," end quote. That's according to the police department's summary of the investigation. Smigel proceeded to slice away as other officers watched and laughed. Put him up. I mean, this is some sick stuff, okay? This is some sick stuff. Quote, "You guys suck," Smigel said after he finished the task. Quote, "We had to do that," Officer Mark Keep, Smigel's field training officer, responded. "It's okay," Smigel said. According to the Salt Lake City PD statement, Keep then instructed Smigel to leave out any mention of the blister popping from his initial incident report. Lloyd's death was later ruled an accident. Put him up. The abuse of Lloyd's body by police only became public last August after multiple Salt Lake City PD officers were upset about it, contacted local news, Fox 13, which began reporting on the department's internal investigation and filed an open records lawsuit. I want to say to the officers who did that, thank you. Put them up. You got some good guys, man. The conscience got to them. 6 months later, Police Chief Mike Brown announced that 7 officers had been put on administrative leave during their probe of misconduct during a death investigation, which exonerated 3 officers and found that 4 officers violated one or more policy of city policies. All but 1 have returned to work. Keep his picture up. Sir, mutilating a corpse is against state law. I guess you didn't think of that when you were investigating them for policy violations, perhaps because the man was homeless and you imagine he doesn't have a family or community backing him, but he does. We're right here. So you allowed your officers to tamper with evidence because at that time there was no ruling on the official cause of death. You allow your officers to mutilate a corpse, which is against state law and local statute. You then allow your officers to lie on the official police report, violation of oath of office, which is a felony. And all of the crimes are forgiven. And they are cited for policy violations. You sick as hell. You have better men under your command than you are, because they are the ones who contacted an investigative reporter in order to bring justice to Mr. Lloyd. Violations included policies for standard of conduct, death investigation procedure, report preparation, and field training officer program, police said. So Officer Keep violated 8 departmental policies, resigned in lieu of discipline, according to Fox 13. Officer Paul Melanax, one of the officers who told Smigel to cut Lloyd's blisters, violated 4 policies and received an unpaid 3-day suspension. Officer Michelle Peterson violated 2 departmental policies and received a warning. Internal affairs records show Peterson may not have witnessed the cutting, but she made disrespectful comments such as telling Smigel that he is able to now say that he cut a B word. Smigel was found to have violated 1 policy, but did not have a written record showing discipline. Police said the officer in training had, quote, reasonable grounds to believe his actions were allowed based on the instructions and egging on he got from the more experienced police officers and medical examiners, the personnel on the scene. Can I remind everyone, we're talking about government workers. Do you think if somebody did that who worked at watershed management, they would still avoid criminal penalty? Of course not. These are government employees. The Salt Lake City DA's office and the Utah Attorney General investigated the incident. The DA determined that the evidence of the case did not support a criminal charge. It did. Prosecutors for the Attorney General's office have not filed any criminal charges as of yet. Multiple months after his funeral, Lloyd's family was horrified by what they saw in the newly released police video. Quote, when Jason passed away, we weren't able to have an open casket. We weren't able to have that closure that you usually get when a loved one passes. Lloyd's sister, Heather Fisher, said through tears, quote, and now our closure is seeing him on a Bodycam video in a tent being treated that way. He was homeless, but he was still loved. Fisher said he had a family and he was still very deeply cared for, and they treated him horribly. And beyond that, he's a human being. He's the same as you. He's the same as me. All right, Jordan, thoughts?
We talk a lot about the bad behavior from police, but I think on this, like you're saying, it's against state law to mutilate a corpse, local law. It's also a violation of international law. It violates the Geneva Convention if a soldier mutilates a corpse, even if it's an enemy combatant. We have to have respect for the dead. And I think what you're seeing here, the fact that they're brought back to work is just beyond me. But it reflects a dehumanizing of people who are experiencing homelessness, and especially the poor or the marginalized, and in this case, someone who cannot make ends meet and is out on the street. One of the worst possible ways to live your life right now. And we just treat these people who need help, who need assistance, with total neglect and dismiss them as subhuman. You wouldn't see an officer do this if this was a wealthy, white, suburbanite woman who unfortunately lost her life. It wouldn't happen. And if for some reason it did happen, there would be a massive uproar. So I think we need to take all of these cases into account, all of these behaviors into account, and treat them all equally, regardless of class.
Well said. I concur.